Okay, well today I'm in my shed and I'm just going to pot up these habanero chilies into something a little bit bigger. These are still staying indoors in the warm, but they need to go into a bit of a bigger pot just so that they can continue to grow well. Now while I do this, why don't you find out what I've been up to over this last week? Well, at the moment I've got into a bit of a routine. Every morning I'm basically sowing seeds or pricking out, and this morning I'm pricking out these tomato seeds. Now I've already done some aubergine plants that we've done here, but these tomatoes, you can see they've got a really good root system on them already. These are a mini tomato, which I'm not a huge fan of the mini tomatoes, but they were just an early tomato that AI suggested that we could sow fairly early on. Normally I'd wait until about March before I start to sow my tomatoes, but we're giving AI a go, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Now, space is obviously at a premium, as I'm sure every gardener struggles with at that, well, especially during March to May. But what I'm finding at the moment, one, we've obviously added extra spaces by adding extra gadgets, but I'm finding that I sow my seeds into these quarter seed trays, which have worked well for many years actually, and then we prick them out into these root trainers, and I've got various different root trainers, and they can stay in these root trainers for quite a while before they need to be planted up into anything bigger. I tend to try and add a bit of seaweed feed to my young plants when watering, only about once a week, just to try and make sure that we can encourage good, strong, healthy growth. But what I'm really feeling with these tomato plants, and it's the same with the aubergine plants as well actually, when they're under the grow lights we're getting decent stocky growth, but the roots particularly are really strong. So ultimately we're doing all right in that regard. I've always said grow lights do make a big difference, but they are not a necessity. They just make a big difference if you are keen to grow your own food. Okay, today I'm here on my large veggie pods. As you know, we've got several veggie pods here. We've still got some carrots actually. Let's have a quick harvest of a carrot and see. A little bit on the small side, that one, but you know what, that one's small as well. They're still edible. We can still eat them, so they're not that bad at the end of the day. We've still also got some chicory and radicchio down that end. But one of the advantages I find with the veggie pod is that we can actually often get many plants started early, and this is provided with this net cover and things like that. At the moment I've got the little soil thermometer in here, and it's telling me the soil is 6 degrees C, which is still pretty cold to be honest with you, but I'm going to sow some seeds in here nonetheless, just to see if we can get them off to an early start. Now the first one I'm going to sow is some parsnips, which normally I don't sow parsnips until about May time, but I've just decided, AI actually suggested to sow parsnips, and I thought, you know what, let's give it a try, see if it makes any difference, see if we can actually get any parsnips, and see if it does make it worthwhile. That went there. Let's just remove those leaves. What else are we going to do? I think between these we're going to, about here, we're going to do some radish. And one day we'll actually get a string line in here. Let's put the label in before I forget. Radish, I think, have a good chance of germinating in here. Say it's still a little bit cold, but I think they do have a relatively good chance of germinating. And we'll see at the end of the day what happens. And then the final one I'm going to sow is just some spring onions. because they do have a good chance of germinating actually, and we quite like spring onions, so it'd be good to get some going nice and early, ready for spring. This is a variety called White Lisbon, which I'm just going to sprinkle in here. These are quite big packets, so I always get plenty of them. There we go. Of course, we can thin them out later on in the season, should we need to. If they do germinate. Like I said, 6 degrees C on there, it's still pretty cold. Fingers crossed it's going to work. Well, I've got up early this morning, and this morning I'm actually sowing these pumpkin seeds. This is a variety called Mammoth Gold. Now this is part of our AI experiment, because normally I wouldn't sow I wouldn't sow pumpkin this early in the season at all. Normally I'll be looking at the earliest I'll be sowing pumpkin would be March. So this seems very, very early to me, but you know, we're going to follow it and see how we get on and see if it does work out in our favour. I think what we're going to find, this is my prediction, these plants are going to grow very big, and we're going to struggle to find somewhere to keep them before they can go out. I think they're just going to grow too big. I'm actually sowing quite a few of these pumpkin seeds, and as you do with any pumpkin seeds, you just simply on its side push it into the soil. I'm just trying to finish up the packet, to be honest with you. The packet goes out of date this year, so it needs using up, and any excess seeds or excess plants we are finding things that we can do with. If it all comes to plan, it's going to work out quite well. Right, you take care. Now you may remember a couple of weeks ago I was shredding some of the branches, and we ended up with all this lovely shredded woody material, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with it back then. Well, after a lot of thought and consideration, what I decided to do is I'm just going to rot this down in my compost bin, an empty compost bin, just for wood chip on its own. Now, the reason I'm doing this is this last week I've been giving a lot of thought to how we can make our own potting mixes. We make a lot of compost, regardless, both here and on the allotment. We make a lot of compost. It's something we use a lot of, but this sort of compost isn't really a potting mix. It isn't really good for pots and pans. It's more organic matter for a soil improver. Fine for that. We use it on our beds all the time. But one of the most expensive things, or the thing that tends to cost us more money than anything, is is buying in things like multi-purpose compost and seed compost. So I gave it a bit of thought, done a bit of research, and I've realised that if we can get the right ingredients, we can actually make our own potting mixes. But it does mean we do need to dedicate quite a bit more space. Probably going to need more compost bins eventually, but we can eventually come up with making our own potting mixes. And one of the ingredients that we're going to be using is rotted wood chip. So I've got a lot more clippings to prune down, but all that is going to go in this bin, and hopefully it'll rot down, and then we'll mix that with some other ingredients, maybe this organic matter, maybe some garden soil or something like that, just to make our own potting mixes. However, to fill it up is going to take quite a bit to get there. Well, that's what I've been up to this week, and I've just finished off potting up these habanero chilies, hoping these are going to provide us with lots and lots of lovely chilies in the future months. It's a long way off, of course. These are very, very ahead of their time at the moment, but they're growing well because I'm keeping them indoors, under grow lights, and where they are warm. These would be rubbish if they were outside. But that's not the point at the moment. It's all about keeping these going. We're off to a good start. They're into larger pots, 3.5-inch pots these ones are, and that should see them out for a while. Right, thank you so much for watching this video. We will be back again next time. Of course, there's lots more videos coming out. Let me know in the comments what you've been up to in your own allotment or your own garden this week as well. And I'll see you again next time.